playing in Sydney. Mello Trimble, we know what he's going to do, Mitch McCarron, but I'm excited for Chris Golding to go off.
So your Sunday double is locked and loaded. Firstly, Sydney against Melbourne, then we're off to Perth against Adelaide. A crowd of 10,000 plus tipped at Kudos Bank Arena, where we are underway. The tip going the way of the home team, Sydney, playing in their City singlets. Last round was City round, but Sydney back home for the first time since then get to show their singlet this afternoon. And there's a foul called on Melbourne to open proceedings. David Barlow, the offender.
Well, they're going at Barlow. He got himself into foul trouble the other night against the Taipans as well. And it's a tough matchup that he's got. Tate has been fantastic.
Scoring double figures regularly, Sean Tate, but Sydney turn it over, and Melbourne get the chance to post first points. The second leg of their round 9 double. McCarron with the turnaround jumper goes over the top of the hole, where it's retrieved by Andrew Bogut.
And he looked a little passive there, looking to try and force the pass, but he's probably open for a layup early on. But that's 2 little turnovers for the Kings, and you can't let this United team get out and run.
Sloppy start by Sydney, and Sean Long says we'll score first.
A real encouraging start for Sean Long. Runs the floor. Those turnovers put yourself in a real difficult defensive situation.
Newley driving hard to the rim, which he does so well, answering the opening bucket by Melbourne.
Well, he's really good in transition, but we know he can turn the corner really good. He's got a really quick turn of pace, and normally he likes the Euro, but that's a nice little finish by Newley.
So Long scoring first for Melbourne after having 20 points, 14 rebounds, 3 assists when they met earlier, and it's backed up by Mello Trimble.
That's what happens, and Melbourne United are going to really test that, listening to Dean Vickerman's comments before the game as well, in that when they know Bogut sits right back in that pocket on those on-balls, you start making him and draw Bogut away from the basket. That's the key.
Now Casper Ware, so these 2 guards that so many people come to see, Trimble and Ware, involved early, Pete.
It was, but it's just too easy. They're just turning the corner, and that's a welcoming sign for Sean Long. We know he can do that, and he has a lot of success against Bogut. As you said, he likes to stay low, but that's a good sign for him. Who enjoy that.
Well, stopping Sean Long is just one of the keys for Sydney to winning this one, Pete.
And the defensive transition, as you said, you've got to be able to look after that. But if you're turning the ball over, it makes your job a lot harder. And Casper goes down the lane again. That's too easy. And take away the 3 ball this last game. Nice little steal from Gigi Lozada. The last game these 2 played, Melbourne took 43s, the most they've taken so far this season. So they've got to protect that.
That's by design. As you take a look at the Melbourne keys, Newell's.
You're back in the coach's dugout.
2 Adelaide boys, that's all right.
I was just looking at Brad Newley, and Newley was going through my head. But Pete?
Yeah, well, you've got to make outside shots, and that's what they're going to be able to do. Bogut's going to give you these outside shots, but you've got to make Casper Ware. Casper loves these big games. Make every touch he gets tough. Have a body on him all the time, but he's already gone down the lane too easy twice.
Well, the pre-game scout and what they're trying to do has paid off, because they've gone at Barlow both times, and he's picked up a couple of fouls. And down the other end, you see the 3 balls that Melbourne United have taken. That's by design. That is saying, well, we need to find a way to drag Bogut out from the basket. They took 40 in their game a couple of weeks ago, made 14 of them, which is their highest in any single game the entire season.
Yeah, Barlow, fresh from fouling out on Friday night, picks up 2 quick fouls on Sunday as Golding spins but still hits the mark.
He can score in just such a variety of ways, and he doesn't settle for a 3 ball. He loves shooting in that gym, so that's a great start for Chris Golding and Melbourne United.
Now Casper Ware dancing, and he'll go to the line for 2.
No team in the competition really gets downhill as much or as successfully and effectively as the Sydney Kings. A lot of others these days, it's the strategy. Get downhill, you're shooting a 3 ball, or you're trying to get to the rim for the play around the rim, or, as we see in this situation, go to the free throw line. But just the skill level that Sydney have got, guys like Newley, certainly Casper in particular, and Tate as a 4-man can get there real easy. We take a look at the WhatsApp question.
Well, viewers can get involved, Andrew. 0415 139 414. Is Casper Ware more valuable to Sydney than he was Melbourne?
Wow. Well, it's early days yet. When you've won a title for an organisation, you're pretty darn valuable. So he's got a bit of work to do. But right now, in the way Sydney have designed their team, he is incredibly important.
Now Long fighting for the ball, goes back to Trimble, and now Golding can't ice the three, but there's a foul called on Sydney.
It's on Bogut, and I love the energy and effort by Long. It looked like it was a semblance the last couple of games. He might have dropped the bottom lip ever so slightly with things not going his way. But that one there, the offensive board, just attacked it with the type of vigour that you want to see from Sean Long.
And a handoff for Mello Trimble, the league's leading scorer, 21.5, just a tick ahead of Mitch Creek. He can't convert on that occasion, but forces the foul onto Sydney.
And Gazer, you're right, and it's something that Sean Long has to learn, and he'll get with obviously playing on this team. He's not playing with the breakers like he did last year. It's a very talented Melbourne United roster, and Dean Vickerman, will they'll work with him, and I saw Chris Golding in that last game having a lot of chats with him, but doesn't have to have massive games every night. You've got such a talented roster, but as long as you're getting the wins, I think it's something that he will learn to grow with.
Well, Matty, I think he's averaging 18 points a game, so he's still putting up some big numbers, but the minute you start to value your own numbers more than the W's and L's, then that can be a cancerous situation. Now, he is in no way anywhere near that, but by the same token, your body language and the way in which you react to when things aren't going your way can be infectious amongst the group, particularly when it's one of your bona fide superstars.
He started so well with 5 double-doubles in a row between rounds 3 and 5. His season-high 31 with 12 boards against South East Melbourne. So the form has been there, as it has been from Casper Ware's hand for multiple seasons now.
And I know he spoke in his pre-game interview that he just doesn't really think about the kind of matchup. Great finish by Sean Long there, but you know Casper Ware has this game circled in the back of his mind, having played for these guys last couple of years.
Long up to 7 points yet to miss, and he came into this game having missed his last 8 three-point attempts. Made his first attempt from outside. That one is waved away.
It was a long way after the shot. The local fans aren't overly happy with it, but for all the good things Casper has done, and we take a look, he's in the groove, and as you say, being real aggressive. There's the foul, the extra step in the shot. It was actually a little closer than I thought. I think it was the right call, but it was closer than I initially thought. But not shooting the ball all that well at Kudos Bank Arena. Only 10 of 43 from the three-point line, 23%. So he's been good, but had his problems in Kudos. And Tate getting to the rim. Yet another example of the heat that they can put on the rim.
And that's why you would expect Dean Vickerman calling a timeout. Everything's just going straight down the middle. And I tell you what, this is where it hurts with not having Shea. Mello Trimble's got 2 fouls now. Who's going to guard Casper? Because he is in ultra attack mode right now.
So Melbourne hoping to score freely against that team in Sydney. They didn't score freely enough, especially late against the Taipans, who are sneaking along very nicely, Cairns, improving after this win to 5 and 7. But what did you make of the fact they've been kept at their 2 lowest scores, Melbourne, 85 and 86, both in far north Queensland?
It's a tough road trip to go up there, and like when I played up there with United, we lost every time we went up there as well, so it's no real surprise that it's tough to go up there. But this Cairns Taipans team, you can't write them off. I've got them really competing for that 4th spot. They're so talented. Their top 6 is as talented as anybody in the league. And when they get rolling, they're fun. That's right. And they've shot themselves in the foot with a couple of games, but particularly ones against Illawarra, where they were in really winnable positions down the stretch in Illawarra that cost them. But this one here is they had to battle. They got down early, got down by as many as 10 double digits, and they came back. And I think their first 6 can match it with the very best in the competition. It tapers off a little bit after that, and if any one of those first 6 are not quite on their game, it does become a little bit more of a challenge, which we saw in Illawarra when Oliver wasn't quite at his best. They need all their front line guys to be elite for them to get those road wins. As you just saw, another big crowd at Kudos Bank Arena watching Sean Long score for fun at the moment, and amid them is our man Brad Rosen.
Yeah, just listen to the timeout there from Melbourne United, and Coach Dean Vickerman very, very disappointed in the defence. Casper Ware, he said, he's going right and you're not listening to me. Make sure he goes left. And in our out of bounds, our 4-man's not there. You're not listening to me. He was very, very stringent about you're not listening to me. Not happy, that coach. Well, it's hard for the coaches to be too upset with the offense. 6 of 8 for Melbourne United, 5 of 6
for the Sydney Kings. So both teams shooting it incredibly well from the field against some pretty intense defense.
Is Long going to go to double figures in the first quarter? It's a mid-court violation. They turn it over in a desperate bid to keep possession anyway, Melbourne. And Bogut brings Sydney up the floor.
That's a third turnover. Yeah, you take care of the ball.
Jayshawn Tate goes to work on Torrey Smith, Milner, and making a pest of himself. McCarron almost forces the turnover. Foul called on McCarron.
And you talk about the way they've started shooting. We've played 5 minutes. There's been 1 rebound for the entire game.
Yeah, well, it's hard to get bored when the ball's going through the rim every time. So it's really a good start offensively. And take a look at the shot chart. Talk about wanting to put some heat on the rim. Have a look at that for Sydney. No secrets about what they're trying to do. And that's why you heard in that last time out about the desire to try and square them up, keep them on the perimeter, keep them out of the paint. No Craig Moller as well for the Sydney Kings. So that provides Lucas Walker with some early opportunities in the rotation, and had a little change soon with Xavier Cooks. What a signing that was during the week.
Caught the attention of many in Wollongong, Andrew, for obvious reasons. His father, Eric Cooks, long-term player, coach, assistant coach with the Hawks, and son Xavier signs with Sydney, the arch rivals. And Casper Ware bumping away from Smith Milner. Tough bucket, and he's swatted by Sean Long, but there's a foul called on Melbourne.
Well, as a coach, right now, you're pulling your hair out. We've just had a timeout and said, don't let Casper go right. Keep him off his right. And he goes right and gets all the way to the rim. So if you're going to get beat the way the coach wants you to get beat. And by the last time out, that is sending Casper to his left.
Well, I'm not sure if you got to hear that from the referee, Mike, but Casper, as he's driving, telling Casey Prater that he's too quick. And as you said, he's got that little hezzy where he's got a nice crossover, but if Dean Vickerman's just told you to try and send him left and you let him go right down the middle, it's going to be a long night if you don't start changing that.
Well, that was one where there's no excuse. It was just a simple 45 the penetration from the 45 gets all the way to the rim. And most times, or most coaches, when you're guarding people on the perimeter, you're trying to keep them on the sideline anyway, force a baseline.
So Casey Prater on the floor as McCarron is stopped, denied by Andrew Bogut. Gigi Lozada fires the pass to Bruce, who gives it back, and rapid ball movement, plenty of passing. It goes over to Bruce, he can't finish. And Golding grabs the scraps. Prater, a knee injury, a serious knee injury into back spasms. Playing just his 4th game of the season. He's gone 7 points against the Breakers, 7 points against the Sixers, into 11 against Cairns on Friday night.
Yeah, you're right. He had a lot of time out before this season and had a few niggles along the way. But from all reports of how training's been going, he's been looking real good. And it's a really good finish by Bogut there. He loves going with that little left floater, but on Casey Prater, he looks and feels good, and that's obviously going to be a massive addition to this United roster.
Yeah, it is, and this is where Bogut is at his best. When he operates from those elbows, either with the pass or the penetration, and again going straight down the middle with the left, which, although he's right-handed, he prefers the left. And I think a lot of that come from that horrific injury he suffered many years ago, that when he fell on his right elbow and was out for a considerable amount of time, just developed that real comfortable around the rim with the left hand. And the big fella, we saw that last time down the floor, why Melbourne United would put an emphasis on the perimeter game. Going in there, when Bogut's in this game, he protects the rim better than anyone else in this league.
Taylor making a nuisance of himself on Casey Prater. Some really vigorous defence. The ball comes free for Golding, who pulls up from 3-point territory and watches the triple go down.
That's why he said it was one of the keys for the game with the Sydney Kings bigs, both Kickett and Bogut. They really sag off, and if you can knock that one down consistently, it's going to be a tough night for him.
What about value for money on a screen? Luala Chul, just very effective screen. Right now, and you always got to be respectful in these situations because Sam Short has only played in 2 games all season, and whether he can play or he can't, when you've only played 2 games and you're coming on in such an important game, rest assured they are going at you. And Will Weaver, that man on screen, will say, I need to test this fella out, as they did that last occasion. So he needs to be, one, ready to guard the ball, but also teammates have got to offer some help, pack it up on the weak side, because you know they're going to go at him.
The 21-year-old from Ballarat was waiting for the ball instead. Here is Sean Bruce, burying 3.
And that's great pressure. Deshaun Taylor getting up into Casey Prather's grill, but from the look of that, that might be reviewed as a 2. He looked like he had a foot on the line there.
So Sam Short, far side of the court, watching Golding go behind the back to Luala Chul, spinning in to kick it. And hard off the back of the rim for Kickett to retrieve. Yeah, Sam Short, just the 2 games, as you mentioned, Drewy, 4 minutes against Perth, 1 minute against Adelaide. That's this season. Yet to score in the NBL, and he finds first quarter game time in front of a big crowd. Key minutes for him and Melbourne. Deshaun Taylor to Bruce, and that's a beautiful runner.
We had 14 and 8, I think it was, in the game earlier on this season. And again, he's either got 5 or 4, depending on how they rule that last one. Prather gets in. Casey Prather, only his 2nd game back after a couple of weeks off with a back injury. 4 of 11 against the Taipans. And just looked a little anxious on that one. Just pressing a little, getting inside. Floaters that he'd normally make. And there's a timeout.
Which allows us to catch up with South Sydney's premiership-winning halfback Adam Reynolds, who is standing by with Brad Rosen.
Adam, thanks for joining us. Of course, you've played in a number of big games. This crowd's pretty interesting. You seem like you're enjoying yourself.
Yeah, it is. Very passionate. Obviously, there's a fair bit of noise coming from behind, and yeah, all the support's needed. It's a tough game. Obviously, they've started well, and hopefully can continue.
Now, you're pretty close here to the action. You must be loving it.
Yeah, I am. I'm sort of a tragic basketball man myself. Obviously, the height doesn't replicate that, but yeah, I love being up close to the boys, and it's always a great atmosphere.
Well, speaking of someone who never had height as well, don't think that's a problem as well. So you guys are in pre-season already for next year?
Yeah, just started back last week, so hit the ground running. Try and lose a few kgs before Chrissy, and then get the body right for the upcoming season.
Well, you're ripping the Kings singlet, so you look great. Thanks for joining us.
All right, cheers, mate.
Yeah, the NRL players love their hoops, often seen courtside there. Adam Reynolds, Josh Reynolds is another who loves his NBL, and that review decided that was a 2-point make from Sean Bruce. So
What about Eagle Eye Hooley?
referee Hooley spots it early.
Well, it was a tough one, because if you're going to take that one up in transition and you're going to be confident to make it a 3-ball at least, because he just stepped into it so confidently, and it was a great knockdown, but when you're a couple of centimetres over, geez, that one hurts.
Daniel Kickett, one of the 5 30-year-olds in his Sydney lineup. Bogut, 35, Bewley, 34, injured Kev Leach, 33, Walker, 34, and Kicks, 36. And Mello Trimble brings it up the floor to score. Ware back at him. And now it's Deshaun Tate skidding over the baseline.
And that's something Daniel Kickett does really well. Sets up in those transition screens, and you've got a guy right now like Casper Ware just getting downhead with steam. So much opens up, but something is going to have to change. At some point, you're going to have to stop letting Casper dictate this game. As you see, he's right in the middle, and if you've got guys on the roster who can just cut and move off you, it's going to make your job a lot easier.
Well, Smith-Milton's got his hands full just with the pace. He does a good job of sliding his feet, keeping in front, but when it's on the run like that, that little handoff makes it tough. And Tate had his issues from the free throw line throughout the course of the season. Only shooting it at 54% from the free throw line. So that's an area that he can improve on.
15 free throws for the quarter, Sydney. And they've made 13 of them. Deshaun Tate, yeah, 64% from the field, 54% from the line. Now Mello Trimble leaves his shot short. It falls nicely for Smith-Milner. Trimble could go again for three. Mello misses back-to-back, and Sean Bruce pulls it down. Oh, Bruce to Jay-Sean Tate, who fires his pass out for Didi Luzada. The crowd was ready and willing to go up, but Luzada was off the mark. Sydney by 6. 90 seconds left in the first. Lual Achul looking for a soft touch, but over the top of the rim. Tate again. And the blocking foul called on Smith-Milner.
And it's 11 fouls to 2 right now, but you've got to credit Sydney Kings. They're putting their head down and just being ultra aggressive, and some of the shots Melbourne United are settling for, instead of putting that heat on the rim, Sydney's just reaping the rewards right now. They are just putting their head down and attacking. And it's by design. You look at the stats across the course of the season, not just for the Sydney Kings, but the way the game is played by most. Sydney have only taken 1 3-point field goal attempt. They're 8 of 11 from the field. It's all about getting to the rim, and do they look a whole lot sharper getting to the rim in the City jerseys, Matty?
Well, you can have one. Go to nblstore.com.au. Cost you about $80. Great buy if you like Sydney's, if you like any of them for that matter. Snap one up. We'll see Perth playing in the City jersey in the game to follow against Adelaide. Great initiative by the league to celebrate the wonderful cities that form part of the NBL. Golding gets away from Ware and duly deposits.
And that's a better sign. No, don't have to settle for these outside shots, even the long mid-range jumper. Put your head down, turn the corner, and make something happen at the rim.
It's this end is the real concern for Melbourne United. Already given up 31 points. Anytime you're on track to have to win a game by shooting more than 120, you need to get the worry beats out, because that's going to be very, very hard to do.
Bogut gets called for his second foul.
And you're right, Gazy, and they're 8 of 11 from the field. Obviously, they've taken 17 free throws, but they've only taken 1 3-point attempt so far. Everything's just coming at the rim and a little too easy right now.
Well, that's an interesting one too, because they're in transition by the letter of the law, and sometimes the law is a little confusing. Coming from behind like that sometimes results in unsportsmanlike.
He didn't right there. Bogut with his second, the only other Sydney player to pick up a foul. Luzada with 1. And look at that finish. Jay-Sean Tate elevates big time, inviting the crowd to elevate. Out of the seats, please. Long. And Sydney now, 33-25, have their highest scoring first quarter of the season. Ominous signs indeed.
I mean, that last 15 seconds kind of preaches to what we're saying. You have Casper put his head down in transition, and then they get followed up with a tip dunk from Jay-Sean Tate, and down the other end, you settle for a long step back contested 2. Dean Vickerman's going to have some very hard words to say at quarter time, I'd imagine.
We might have to reconsider the strategy too. 33 points. One thing is your defence needs to lift, but the amount of quick shots that Melbourne United are taking is leading to pretty tough defending situations.
Mello Trimble ran into Luzada, lost the ball, and here's Jay-Sean Tate looking for the party play to finish. Maybe a bit too fancy, a bit too optimistic. Boy, that would have been something. And Trimble at the other end can't make them pay.
Goodness me. I mean, the audacity, but if it comes off, it's one thing, but I'm not sure he was close.
You're a man who was the head coach last year. If you see a player do that in the first quarter, what do you think? What are you saying?
Well, if you've got 33 points on the board and you're 8 points up against your nearest rivals and things are flowing, it can be a double whammy. If that goes down, the emotion, the momentum you generate from it, I don't mind it in the context of what it is. Now, if you're 1 down and you're in the first quarter, you say, well, hang on a second, that's a poor judgment. But in that context, I think it's not unreasonable, and it can have a positive impact on your team.
Surely at quarter time, Dean Vickerman is telling his men they're disrespecting us. They're getting carried away.
Well, I think they've got a reason to be disrespecting them right now, because they've got more important things to worry about than just the psyche.
Sydney 35, Melbourne 25. Sydney equaling the highest scoring first quarter of the season. What a start by the home team, inviting a big crowd into it. The Kings, they're out by 10. of another big crowd. Sydney have given their fans reason to make some noise in the first quarter. They lead Melbourne by 10. Casper Ware has been busy for the home team, supported by plenty of other Sydney Kings. Pete Hooley, Andrew Gaze in commentary with me. What did you make of that first term?
Well, I think it was a good even spread. You look at Casper Ware with the 9, Tate's got the 7, Bogut's got 5, Bruce come in with 6 points, so they've spread it around and put up a big number. But I tell you what it is, it's just clearly evident of what they're doing. Head down, get to the rim, and it's been highly successful, putting a lot of pressure on the defense of Melbourne United.
19 free throws Sydney took, making 17 of them. Melbourne 2 of 2 at the line. Lopsided as Bogut receives the pass and then is blocked by Long. They'll be going at it all game, Bogut and Long.
And Gaze is right, it's just two teams that have game plans. One, Sydney Kings are really sticking to theirs. It's pretty evident. And Dean Vickerman said that obviously defense is so important that something has to change. And right now in that first quarter, Melbourne United didn't do what their game plan is. So it'll be interesting to see how they turn that around.
Well, they got rewarded going to the rim, and 12 fouls were called on Melbourne United, which forced them to go very deep into their bench.
Luzada for Newley, under a bit of shot clock pressure, and Luala-Chul gets the rebound. Mello Trimble for Melbourne. Luala-Chul up high. Foul on the way to the rim.
One of the most extraordinary numbers in that first quarter was 9 of 16 at 56%, but the reason why they were able to shoot only 16 field goals is that they've had 19 free throw attempts. 17 of 19 is some outstanding free throw shooting. But the way the game's been officiated, getting to the rim is going to be very important if it continues in the same fashion as the first quarter. And as such, looks like Melbourne United tried to change it up, go to a bit of a zone defense, trying to protect that paint.
Newley again, showing us his 3 balls successfully. Scoring freely, the Kings. Now Long for Trimble, who pulls up. He's fouled on the 3-point shot. Jay-Sean Tate, the villain for Sydney, so Mello to the line.
And it's a smart play by Mello Trimble if you know that your defender's really fighting over that screen, trying to stop and get that quick one off. And Jay-Sean Tate just running into his legs there. And
well, I think Trimble did a good job. Take a look at the replay. Look at the legs of Trimble on this one. Just kicking him out a little bit to make sure, not a lot, but just enough to make sure the officials knew that there was contact on that field goal attempt.
When you've got your defender coming from that angle from behind you, if he gets caught up on the screen, you get the chance to get your leg kicked out like that as well. So, but I like the energy so far and the difference that Melbourne United is. And we go back to the play just before with Luala-Chul turning the corner. And if you're going to go to the rim, do it to dunk on someone. And if you get to dunk on Bogut, all the better for you.
Well, that's right. And you look at that 6-game win streak that Dean Vickerman guided Melbourne United to. They were putting points on the board. They were averaging 106, and during that period where they were winning, it all came back with a thud with only 80-odd in against Cairns. But when you're having success like that, you want to continue to play it. But this strategy, Newley with extended defense gets an easy one. This strategy of high-octane, quick shots is playing so far right into the hands of the Sydney Kings.
Mitch McCarron opts for Long. Now Golding, guarded by Casper Ware, the former teammates side by side, and Golding forces the foul onto Ware. There's a bit of crossover, isn't there? A lot of rivalry between Sydney and Melbourne, but add to that the fact that the injured Moller and Kickett and Ware and Walker have all spent time at Melbourne United and now play for Sydney.
Well, that's right, and it helps in these types of games where you're so familiar with your opponents because every single day you're going head-to-head. You learn their little favourite moves, the little things that they might do that others don't always pick up on.
They're nuances.
Nuances is a very good way to describe it.
So Sydney by 8, having led by 10 at the first break. They're on a 4-game winning streak after their only loss of the season against Melbourne in round 5, and they won't lose if Bogut keeps scoring like that. A beautiful assist to set up the big man.
Need to send him left, but that was just an open invitation to get to the rim. A direct drive straight to the basket on his left.
Casper's first assist was a worthy one, wasn't it? Do they combine again? Into the front court they come. Ware, Golding in his grill. And here's Jay Sean takes, dropping 3, and a pat on the backside from coach Will Weaver on the way past.
And this is somewhere where, as we said, Shea Illy missing really hurts. You can't get him to get up in. Casper Ware make his life tough. We said it was one of the keys to the game, but he's just dictating everything right now.
Golding for Lual, Achul. Shot was short. And Casper Ware likes the look. Drops the 3, he wants them to count.
It's going to be on Brad Newley. Didn't do a lot, but just leaned forward. Be interesting to see this one on the replay.
I tell you what, Matt, as you said, you know the nuances. Casper Ware was always going to pull up from that. You saw him slowly walking. They're not going to count it. He was just slowly walking over things. He was going to pull up no matter what.
Yeah, not a Chris Golding.
I thought it was an off-the-ball foul called on Melbourne.
No.
And that's why Casper was appealing for it to count. But then you're right. You're spot on. It was called offensive foul.
And Newley just maybe a touch late, but certainly Chris Golding went out of his way to make sure that the officials saw that there was some contact.
Well, Brad Rosen is standing by, one of Australia's great sportswomen courtside.
That is so true, Matty. Of course, I got Jess Fox, our Olympic silver medalist. Jess, you look so happy and excited to be here.
Oh, it's an amazing atmosphere. It's so cool to be here, and I mean, front row seats, so it's an electric atmosphere. It's awesome.
Now, I remember watching you at the Olympics, and the atmosphere was great. Is it anything like this when you're actually on the water?
It's definitely not as loud and in your face. You know, there's not as much booing, so and no funny signs sticking up on the side. But it's an awesome atmosphere at the Olympics as well. But I'm enjoying being home and supporting the Kings here today.
Now, are you watching the players? They love to talk to each other and talk about stuff that you shouldn't really be talking about. Does that happen on the water?
I didn't notice that. Not much. I mean, during training, there's always a bit of banter and good fun, but on race day, it's pretty serious. And
Thank you so much for being here. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Big atmosphere in Sydney, and Jess, a big-time athlete, training not too far from Kudos Bank Arena out there at Penrith, and she is a decorated performer. You wouldn't be talking much in that realm, man, because you can't talk 6 feet underwater. That's where you'd be if you started the trip in a canoe.
No, I'm not all that keen on the canoe type activity, but this next one is going to be an absolute beauty. These two teams got a long history, and the two superstars, Bryce Cotton and Jerome Randall, that is worth the price of admission.
Jerome with a really good record at RAC Arena as well. He loves that big crowd, loves responding to it, so one to wait for up next. Perth Adelaide, as Mello Trimble says, just concentrate on me for the time being, not the point guards to come, but he can't finish that shot. Sydney by 11, and it's an offensive foul again on Sydney.
Good deep.
Much better defense by Mello Trimble there, moving his feet, and as we said, we know Sydney's just going to put their head down and go. So if you know that, it's a great scout way to learn from the first quarter and just take it right to the chest.
And the other time down the floor, Lozada just running into the screen. Trimble got a wide open three-point look from the top of the key. Now it missed, but they would be encouraged to know that that shot's going to be on when Lozada's out there. If he's not going to fight over the top of those screens, that should create a lot of opportunities for Trimble.
Good to see New Orleans, who own the rights to Didi Lozada, say he's here for the season. You'll see out the season with Sydney, this next star player. And after that 28 points he had against Perth, 7 of 11 threes, we wondered what heights he can reach this season.
But as you see Mello Trimble coming off there, and he's probably thinking to himself, he's getting a lot of shots up, but it's kind of the way that Sydney play with Bogut backing off. He's got to be able to create and turn the corner hard, and if Bogut doesn't come to you, shoot that little floater That's a great pass by Mitch McCarron, reading the defence really well, and these are great signs so far from Melbourne United in this second quarter.
Joe Luala-Chul showing us his range. You like to call him Pogo, Joe Pete.
Well, as you saw before when he had that dunk on Bogut, he can get up pretty quickly and he's extremely long.
Sydney trying to go back at them with a triple. No luck. And Melbourne back within 6. Trimble to Long, who walks inside the arc, barely. And he's a little heavy with the shot.
Bogues is just going to concede him that perimeter shot. He's already made one earlier on, but he's just playing the odds. And that time pays off for him again. Long misses the long two-pointer.
Lucas Walker onto the floor for Sydney, the 10-year NBL veteran, as Bogut comes away with a miss. McCarron looks for support, finds Casey Prather, front of the rim and away.
Another real quick shot by Melbourne United and a foul.
On Long, so that's his 3rd for the game.
You see Long up and in, trying to pinch that one. Doesn't get it and goes to the bench with those 3 fouls. And Lasada's got the 2, Trimble's got the 2. So a lot of fouls being called in that first quarter on Melbourne United, but just starting to even up a little bit in this second.
Kickett finds support on the wing, and Bruce, it will stay with Sydney, and you can thank Sean Bruce for that, Kings.
Unintentional, but as he tried to throw it off the defence and straight into the orchestra stalls of Trimble.
I'll just let that hang, so to speak. Here's Kickett. Inside for Luzada. A couple of 6-point returns since that big performance against Perth 3 games ago, and cleaned up by Lucas Walker.
And they're the plays that really hurt you when you're playing catch-up. Got to come up with every defensive board.
Now Walker called for the foul at his 6th NBL club in 10 years in the league. Haven't seen a lot of minutes in recent games. 9 seconds against Illawarra into a did not play against the Phoenix. His season high 7 points, 4 rebounds against Adelaide, round 5.
Well, that's going to be the biggest issue, I think, when Cooks come in. Xavier Cooks come in. You'd imagine that he's going to be playing his 20-plus minutes, and they've got to come from somewhere. And I think that Lasada, Mola, Newley, all of them have to take a little bit of a hit. And it gets even more of a challenge, I think, when Kevin Lish comes back in. So, no questioning the depth of talent. Without a doubt, the most talented and deepest roster in the competition. And how you put all those pieces together, it's a whole lot easier to do when you're 10-1 than when you're 5-5 or 5-6.
Jay-Sean Taylor.
He's really struggled from the field, and that'll do his confidence the world of good as well.
Barlow tried to fire back with 3. Yeah, Jay-Sean Taylor, last 3 games, Drewy, none of 12 from the field, none of 9 from outside. Well, there was one with positivity, and Luzada dispatches Chris Golding and looks down as he goes past.
Now, this one on the replay, to me, this is where your reputation hurts you. Because of the reputation Chris Golding has as a flopper, that to me looked like very good defense, and where perhaps he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt on that one, purely on the basis there's that reputation that he's flopping.
And I have to agree with you. I think that's a good scout, and we talked about knowing who you're playing against. We see Deshaun Taylor with the nice 3, but Melo Trimble got the charge against him before as he's trying to go left, and I thought it was a pretty good take.
That's his first made field goal, Luzada.
And you can see he's going forward. I actually think that that's pretty darn good defense.
And watch this, Drewy. Well, we didn't get the replay long enough, but Golding got a lesson in Brazilian as Gigi ran back over the top, uttering some words as Will Weaver assembles the troops.
JT's coming up, right? We're going to fill corners. Kicks is going here. We're going to ISO the middle of that zone and find windows beside around it. JT in the middle. Take your time if it's one-on-one. A lot of times it's Golding. Be ready for a flop. Just go around him. Shot
spots right now. Case, come up. If your man drags with you, be looking at that back cut as well. All right? Hey, I don't like that green right now. Let's go ahead and man up.
Well, there's Dean Bickerman making the change. His green would be his man defence. And
his zone.
His zone, excuse me.
Going back to the
exactly.
Yeah.
His zone defence, which you heard in the timeout before, how Sydney were preparing their offence to go up against the zone and have a different look. But I tell you what, Chris Golding's not going to like coming back and watching a review. When coaches start talking about you and your defensive behaviours, that's not going to be welcome listening. And this time, it's Barlow with another foul.
Sydney have their biggest lead of the game. Melbourne under pressure. Barlow, who picked up fouls early. That's number 3 for David, and he heads towards the bench. And follow the NBL, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and plenty are, judging by the scenes there at Kudos Bank Arena. More than 17,000 to watch Sydney play Illawarra, and if today goes past 10,000, the Kings will have 10K plus in back-to-back games for the first time since 1994. So Sydney-siders getting out to support their ladder-leading team, and leading the team is Casper Ware.
And that's his first outside shot of the game, and it looks like he really didn't even want to settle for that one. He knows what he's doing. He's putting his head down. And
Golding now called offensively. He can't take a trick at either end.
Well, he's going to set the little up screen for the 4-man, and they just jumped in front of him and perhaps got a little bit of his own medicine. Gee whiz. Wow.
55-41. Sydney's biggest advantage since the tip. And there's 3 minutes 20 left before half-time. And a whistle for a foul off the ball.
This time, I think they've called it on Brad Newley, trying to set the screen, but Golding was jumping in his way, just trying to not allow him to set the screen. Didn't look like a whole lot in it. So, a couple of mystery calls. Have a look here. You see Golding holding him. Brad Newley didn't do a whole lot wrong.
well, right now it feels like a bit of a techno concert with all these whistles going on.
Golding just steadies everyone because we heard the referee affects Mike's behaviour warning Melbourne. Brad Rosen courtside, can you make sense of it at the moment?
Yeah, I'm just watching Mello Trimble, guys. He got a back screen there by Daniel Kickett, and he is holding that right shoulder. You will see how he's monitoring it, and he's really holding it on his right-hand side. I'll keep you posted.
Now, Casper Ware just inside the shot clock.
That's a real tough one, and he's already hit 1-3, and as we check out on Mello's arm there, it didn't look too bad. He gets his own rebound.
No, I was saying again on that one, it's a hard, when you're on the sideline, like I said, most coaches are wanting to send the offense to the baseline, but that time you're sending it to Casper Ware's right hand, and again, with the right hand gets to the rim. Brad Newley comes off, he's a little confused, not sure what he did wrong the last time.
Since losing to Melbourne in round 5, Sydney have really...
Forward, mate. No, on that one I saw sideways.
Sydney have really applied the defensive clamps, conceding 85, 85, 87, 86 at 43%. It's the lowest shooting in the NBL in that time. So defensively, they have tightened after giving up the 107 against Melbourne. They'll be relatively satisfied, will they, with 43 in the shadows of half-time?
Well, they will, but I think Melbourne United have started to get a few better looks than they did in that first quarter, but I think they'll be more happy with the fact that they've got 57 with 2.5 minutes to go.
No evidence in this second quarter that they've solved the problem on the defensive end, though. 57 points and counting with 2.5 remaining. And some of it has got to do with just their offense as well. The amount of times they're exchanging the ball, giving the Kings, a white-hot Sydney Kings, opportunities. Oh.
Look at Casper Ware moving in the face of Golding. He couldn't get it done at the rim. And now Casey Prather, guarded by Jay Sean Tate. It's a kind roll for Casey.
So interrupted as his last 18 months has been, and just can't seem to get that consistency. Every time you think Casey's back, he comes up with another little injury, and there's
Taylor. He's fouled in the act of shooting 3 by Casey Prather.
And again, on first glance, it looked like Taylor might have milked it ever so slightly. But everything going right for the Sydney Kings. They've been super aggressive. You can just see them exuding confidence with the ball, making the extra pass. There's no sense of panic in anything they do. And that's where it's on Melbourne United, is try and get them out of that comfort zone, which is really, really tough to do.
Deshaun Taylor, if he makes all of these, Sydney on track for 120 plus with 60 in their sights before half-time. And remembering last week in Adelaide went to the highest score of the season, 117 against the Breakers. Last round, round 8, 6 games. The average was 100 points per team per game, highest in the last 10 years, or the most recent era of 40-minute NBL. Points and more points drew in.
Well, it is, and the hardest thing now, if you want to slow the tempo down, it's very hard to do that when you're 14, 16 points down, because your natural instinct is to say, we need to get this back. We need to get it back quickly. It plays in the hands of the Sydney Kings, but just finding that balance is really going to be key for Melbourne United and what they do on the offensive end.
Golding, his shot caught the front of the rim and bounced away. Jay Sean Tate, Sydney to 60 points at the half for the first time this season. The record this season is 61. Sydney can break it right here, but Casper Ware.
That's much better defense. You saw Chris Golding sitting on his right hand saying, go left, and he ends up settling for a step back there.
Torrey Smith-Milner checks the feet, leaves the shot short, but gets it back. Smith-Milner finishes at the glass.
He's playing with real good confidence right now. Had a couple of good games. Last weekend had 19 points in 10 minutes and had a good one on Friday night as well. He's got a lot of confidence running through him.
Fresh from his career high.
Foot violation, it looked like.
That was a foul. Joe Luala-Chul holding kicks there. And
oh, my.
Yeah, I think you had the same reaction that he did. But it's one thing, obviously, we've had 17 fouls from Melbourne United. You have to adjust at some point to the way it's been called right now.
Yeah, I think there are those times when you can make some adjustments, but there's been a couple that you just look at more mystery fouls that you say, well, how do you want me to adjust to this? And when you're down and you're giving up 61 points, you naturally got to put more pressure on the ball. You've got to be up and in, try and be disruptive. And it makes it hard when now they're so hamstrung with all the fouls that have been called.
Sydney now the highest scoring first half this season, blowing past the 61 Brisbane scored last night. Since they returned to the NBL, their highest first half is 64. So there's still time for Sydney to get to that. And travelling called on Mello Trimble.
I'd like to see the replay on that one. It looked like he had a nice little gather step and...
I think he said he hopped on the same foot, Chris. Wax off.
Have a look at the replay. He's coming in. That is hopping on the same foot, but technically might be correct. But if you're going to be consistent with that, you're going to blow the P out of the whistle.
Sean Bruce. No luck from the corner. Melbourne trailing by 14. How close can they get by half-time? McDaniel onto the floor late in this first half. Trimble thought about pulling up. Now he does. Beautiful, the runner, bottom of the nets. 62-50 with 10 seconds to play.
They're hanging in there. They're just keeping it in touch distance here. When you've given up 62 points, you're always looking at that scoreboard, and it puts a lot of pressure on your offense, and they've been able to do that. 46% from the field, only 25%, 4 or 16 from the three-point line, but doing enough to hang around. And we saw last week where Southeast Melbourne Phoenix got well behind and played himself into a winning position. So Sydney have shown throughout the course of the season, there have been those times where they've given up some leads and made a game of it, but pretty tough to do it against the Kings at home.
Kicks, I want to go to Didi if we can on the fly. Fast. Casper, you're trailing into it as this ball is coming. Kicks, you're sprinting down behind it. So as Didi brings the ball, he's going to end up in this spot. Casper, go flare kicks on the fly and then sprint into a screen with Didi. If you go on your right hand, ignore all this. Just go fucking lay it up. We got drift if you need it. If you can't turn the corner, look on this flare or be ready for Casper to sprint in and set one for you. And now
just run at him. You got to have that rotation on the next one. All right. You got it?
A couple of options available there on this offensive set. You heard the pace at which they want to play at. Get downhill. And this one coming up next, Matt, it's going to be a beauty.
They'll like to play at some pace as well. Perth against Adelaide. What a rivalry it is. The longest continuous rivalry going back to 1982. Perth, Adelaide up next. 10 seconds to go in the first half in Sydney. The Kings unbeaten at Kudos Bank Arena this season, 5-0. The dying seconds of the opening half. Casper, Ware, banks three. Good. Brad Newley likes it. The crowd loves it. Pete Hurley, what an exclamation at the end of the first.
That's what he does, but if you heard the back end of Dean Vickerman's time out there, he said, let's run a little double at him and someone be ready to rotate, because you know he's going to take that shot.
Well, he does, and he got the luck. I'm pretty sure he didn't call bank on that one. But when things are rolling, you get the luck of the hoop gods, and they went that way for Casper Ware on that play.
Sydney's highest scoring first half since they returned to the league. It has been a blitz on Melbourne. King 65, United 50 to you, Brad Rosen.
Hello, Kings came out firing up by 15. What's the problem? Where you got to fix it?
On the defensive end, we just got to play through the shit that's not going our way.
You look like you got a bit of a hit in the shoulder. All okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, thanks. Have a good second half. We'll come over here, and we've got Torshan Tate here. Mate, you throwing off the backboard. You look like you're having a ball out there.
Yeah, you know, that's when we have a free team. You know, Will has a trust in us, and it allows us to play free. I won't try it again, though. I had a couple guys open I should have passed to, though.
Talk to me about the game, though. You guys are really up in the energy. You want this win, don't you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. They got us last time, and, you know, we want to make sure that everybody knows we're the best team in the league.
Well, hopefully he doesn't talk to you too strongly in there for that off the backboard. Thanks, and we'll see you on the second half. Well, make sure you join us. Of course, he is lightning out there and watching it. Kings by 15, but don't let this Melbourne United team think they're done. They will come back. They're that good. We'll see you on the other side.
Sydney Kings are on track to avenge their only defeat this season by beating Melbourne. They lead by 15, and Casper Ware, 17 points on 6 of 9 shooting, add 3 assists, and no wonder he has some swagger. Much made of his matchup with Mello Trimble, with it's Casper in front at half-time, men.
Well, it is, and Casper's been a dynamic, 17 points, and well, he'd be having the Melbourne United ownership just maybe going through and saying maybe we should have found a few more shillings for Casper, because he has been fantastic. Take nothing away from what Melbourne United do. I don't think they've been terrible. It's just that Sydney have just been so good.
Well, normally teams have 50 by half-time. You say it's working, they're on track for victory, but not in the modern day NBL, Pete.
No, and I think obviously Melbourne are going to come out with different defensive focus this half. But if they've learned anything from that first half and the way it was called, makes Sydney's life a bit harder when, offensively for the United and defensively for the Kings. Put your head down and put them in tough positions to get tough fouls called against them and really put them on the back foot early. And that's a great start right there from Mello Trimble.
High off the glass, and it works for Mello Trimble, who goes to 16 points on 5 of 11 shooting. Just 1 assist so far for Mello, who's not that far behind Casper Ware on the stats line. A big second half can see him back in front, and Luzada, the Brazilian, the 20-year-old, couldn't score for Sydney. Trimble again, feeling confident and looking all the more confident. He looked straight at the referees and said, "Where's your whistle, man?"
And again, he threw his leg out trying to get that same call he got, but they pulled up and he knocked it down.
Jay-Sean Tate outside for Luzada. Bogut's. Tate's guarded by Barlow, and he forces the foul on Barlow. That's number 4 for David. In real danger of sitting for most of this second half now.
And when you've got those 4 fouls and you've got a dynamic player down low like Tate is, although he's undersized, you're thinking, well, I can just use my reach. We look at Trimble the time before, just wanting a bit of contact. None there. Casper did a good job of putting on the brakes. But in those circumstances, when you've got those 3 fouls, you've got to do a better job of trying to deny him the ball, because if you're just going to have single coverage down low and you've got this bull that can get to the basket, it's very hard not to foul the way the game's being officiated.
Jay-Sean Tate, a really important ingredient for Sydney this season. Great to watch. Now Sean Long. Little handoff here for Mello Trimble, who's done the scoring for Melbourne in the second half, but that one comes off the rim hard. Sydney back out by 13. And Luzada thought about it. The second time around, he's off the mark.
And that's better defense there from Melbourne United. You see Mello Trimble making it a bit harder for Casper Ware's touches. And I know you spoke about Casper leaving Melbourne, but he's not a bad pickup when you've got a competitor like Mello Trimble and how he started this second half.
Could not want for a better replacement. Trimble's been fantastic this season, fitted in well.
McCarron for Torrey Smith. Milner catches the front of the rim, swirls around and goes through. Crucial buckets for Melbourne as they fight to stay in the contest. Casper Ware again. Mello Trimble got his hands on the ball, and it'll be Trimble, will it, called for the foul?
No, it's going to be a jump ball. He grabbed the ball, forced the travel when they both had it. So it's the alternating possession, and it'll stay with the Sydney Kings.
On replay, should he have been called for the foul? Make your decision at home. It's 10 points the difference. Golding for McCarron. And that one's on Bogut.
Sloppy inbounds pass gets picked off. Go the length of the floor, and
Bogut the third personal alongside Newley for Sydney and Luzada.
McCarron has almost been non-existent in that first half. He's 0 of 2 from the field. He's got 3 rebounds and a couple of assists, but been such an important player. And I know he's one of those players that lets the game come to him. But I think collectively, if a guy of his capacity has only got 2 shots, I think it's some stage you've got to give him a few more looks just for his own confidence and his own well-being as far as contributing.
Yeah, look, I agree with you, but just watching some of the possessions, even that one just before, he doesn't come off that ball screen ultra-aggressive, and I think that's where he can be really good. He loves to create for others, which is a great factor to have in a player, but he's got to be able to turn the corner and really put heat on the rim. He loves a little mid-range jump shot, but I think as much as him getting some shots, he's got to find a lot of it himself.
He leads United for steals, for defensive rebounds, second for rebounding overall, and second for assists at United. Quiet in this one to start as Bogut finds it tough.
Good D by Long. Blocks the shot, just couldn't come up with it. So good early signs to start this third by Melbourne United. And what's going on the defensive end, but just like that, order restored by Casper Ware.
Casper Ware goes back to the top of the game scorers. It was Trimble going past him with a fast start to this third term, but they're going at it. These two scorers, Trimble and Ware.
But you look on that inbound, you can't go underneath that screen. He's already 2 of 3 from 3, and you just give him a chance to have a little bit of daytime, and you know he's not going to pass up on these opportunities against his former club. He loves these, so you want to see him be a bit more aggressive, chase around the screen, make him do something else.
Didi checks out of the game with the 4 fouls, so some concerns for Lozada as well. He's got the 4 points, only 1 of 5 from the field.
Don't forget, Melbourne are armed with this wonderful record against Sydney, having won 13 of the last 14 against the Kings. Casper Ware doesn't buy into any of that and has another shot fall for him. Casper Ware doing it for Sydney. 22, 8 of 11 shooting, and Trimble leaves that one short. Does Casper fire again? Into Golding, but he gets it back. And Bogut just puts it on the floor for Casper. Where baseline, Jay Sean Tate, and it was McCarron from behind, called for the foul.
Coming from behind, looked like a good play by McCarron. There you see Casper again getting deep into the heart of it, and oh gee, that looked a little like the benefit of the doubt didn't go the way of McCarron.
Here's a resounding response on WhatsApp. We asked, is Casper Ware more valuable to Sydney than he was at Melbourne? Well, 89% of respondents say yes.
It is a tough one, as you said. I think a lot depends on the roster around him. You look in the last couple of years when he had Chris Golding as well as Casey Prater around, when he had those guys from Melbourne United, but you take him off this Sydney Kings team right now and a lot would be different. So,
especially with Kevin Liss injured.
Exactly right.
No Kevin Liss, Kwani released, and Craig Moller missing with an Achilles injury, but Sean Long isn't missing. A little look at the courtside fans as he went back.
That's a better look for Sean Long. He just took the open one, and a couple in the first half, he left it go, and then he took a 1 dribble step back or between the legs. So just shoot the first one confidently, it's a much better shot.
Newley puts it on the floor, works his way past Golding. That is classic Brad Newley.
It certainly is, but again, getting so deep, right into the heart of this defense. And you've got to cut it off earlier if you're going to have a chance.
Golding with an optimistic pass for Long. Ended up nowhere near him, and Casper Ware has it, having mentioned the men out for Sydney, just repeating Alex Pledger and Shea Illy. Not there for Melbourne as the bodies collide.
And again, just taking on Chris Golding, Casper Ware trying to get to the rim. And this is, when we're talking about cutting him off and keeping him in front, it's not just the individual assignment, and Chris Golding might have a little bit to answer for here because it looks like he's dragged Casper Ware onto him. So that might get reviewed. But it's a collective thing. The game is so heavily weighted in favour of the offense. If you're just out there on an island by yourself, the offense is so strong that, yeah, as I thought, they're going to go review it. And I think he might be in a little bit of strife here.
Yeah, look, based on that replay, I have to agree with you. And I think you're right. That's the toughest point is it's all well and good to go out there and say force him left, but when you've got such terrific point guards all around this league, but especially like Casper Ware, Melo, Trimble, it's hard to say just get one player to go out there and stop them. You need to be all ready to go to back them up and help them, and I think that's what Shea Illy does for this United team, as you say, go out there, as we listen to this review.
After review, we have a review going on. Correct side ball and 2 in possession. And it's Ware versus...
So the foul...
Yep, you've got them both.
Will be called unsportsmanlike, but they're not giving him 2 fouls, are they?
43, 4, 3, block. That way. Unsportsmanlike.
And the first foul was at the 3-point line, and I think the second unsportsmanlike was to carry on a bit closer. But
that is a very significant penalty.
No, he does not. He grabs him around the back of the head and pulls him down. He doesn't have the ball at all.
He does, but it's a bang-bang play. It's all in the one action, so there's the foul and then the grab. I think that's a little harsh, and in fact, I'm not sure Chris Golding's got a lot of love and the benefit of the doubt too much in this one.
You're
I
right.
can accept the unsportsmanlike, put him to the line, shoot 2, but to give him 2 fouls on the bang-bang play, that, to me, seems a little over the top.
You're right, and it kind of reminds me of something that happened obviously a few weeks back with the with New Zealand Breakers Southeast Phoenix game. But it's all in the one context, so I wouldn't mind just seeing one as well.
The crowd 9,500, so just shy of the 10 plus they hope for. Still a good turnout, and that crowd really riding Chris Golding. Now Bogut shows us that he can climb high. He turned this week over to a new year, but there's still plenty of life left in those legs. 35 on Thursday, 35 years young Bogut. Up again for the rebounds. We'll have the Epsom salts in the bath tonight.
It's on McCarron. It's off the ball. And Sean Bruce got tangled up.
And that was his one-on-one
And as you heard, third personal on McCarron.
Johnny, you want to talk to me? Don't just walk off.
It's really getting very testy and a little sloppy out here. In this next 2 minutes, if Melbourne United are any chance, I reckon this next 3 minutes of this game are going to decide whether they actually can get back into a situation where they can retrieve it.
We just saw Casper Ware heading towards the bench for a breather. He's on 24 points. Last time against Melbourne, he had 34. Does he finish higher or lower than 34 today, Pete?
Well, a lot of it's going to depend on the scoreline, I think.
Very hard to score if you're resting on the bench.
But the one thing about this Melbourne United team, as everybody knows, is how deep they are and talented they are. So there's one team that can get back into it and quickly. But they're going to need someone else other than Mello Trimble to be aggressive. He's coming off and looking to score. Who else is going to be able to step up? You've got this roster. Who else is going to be able to do it to help him?
Sean Bruce given plenty of latitude. Through Taylor, on to Daniel Kickett, who got a really good look, couldn't finish. And then Lucas Walker is fighting for the ball, and he's being called for the foul.
It's called for reaching over the top in the back. And again, didn't look like a whole lot in it.
As the teams head for a breather, we'll find Brad Rosen again, who's standing by with a GWS star, Brad.
Yeah, GWS player here of Sam Jacobs. Thanks for joining us. Now, if I'm not mistaken, born in Adelaide, played in Melbourne, now in Sydney. Who do you go for?
Yeah, I'm all over the place. I'm absolutely a 36er, but I've moved to Sydney, so I've got to embrace the city.
So you just said this in front of 10,000 people. You're a 36ers fan. Do you want to change that?
I might over time, but it's fantastic being here. Izzy, my wife, played basketball with Brad Newley's wife as well, so he's got us along here, so it's great to be here.
Now, you're living here, obviously. You must be enjoying it.
Yeah, it is. It's been awesome. It's a big change from Adelaide. Completely different city. You know, a lot more people up here, so it's been fantastic.
Now, of course, we go over here to Izzy and Imogen. Now, I hear you're a basketballer, so you can teach him some stuff.
Maybe the one thing is shooting that I'm good on, Sam. Everything else he beats me out.
So, now, are you originally from Adelaide?
Yeah.
So, are you a 36ers fan or a Kings fan now?
Absolutely Kings.
Right, and we want this one to be a Kings fan. Can you be? Yeah, she's a Kings fan. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Great work, Brad Rosen courtside, where there is another fantastic atmosphere. Their side 5-0 at home and on track for their best home season since they returned from that absence in the league in 2010-11. Up next, well, Sam Jacobs can go home and watch his 36ers if they're suddenly his second team. Go up against the Wildcats. It will be a beauty, and you don't have to wait long after we have full time in Sydney. It's the Kings by 18, chasing their 11th win of the season.
Casey Prather, when you're out of the game for a few weeks and you haven't played a lot in a couple of years, they're the type of little fundamental mistakes that can happen, and couldn't have come at a worse time. Little 2-3 zone now by Melbourne United as they change things up again.
That foul called on Mello Trimble as Deshaun Taylor tried to blow past.
It's a really tough time. I don't think this has been one of the best officiated performances we've seen all season, but the histrionics to carry on, when you're this far down, just get on with it, let it be what it is. And that looked like there was a bit of a grab, but it just... And it's hard to do. It's so frustrating, highly competitive individuals. But these are the moments that it's not just about this game, it's the tone you set, the culture you want to build for moving forward as well.
Well, you're right, and you highlighted when you're trying to get back into a game, you want to ramp up your defense, ramp up your energy, but if you're struggling to get away with that, then you have to try and adjust to find the ways to win. But talking about Casey Prather, at the time now down 19, he can see this as an opportunity to really just try and get back into the flow and explore what made you, and you know the player you are. And
well, there you see it again, just pushing the issue a little too much. His anxiety to contribute it, make sure that he re-establishes himself in the lineup. Sometimes you just go a little too hard and try and do a little too much. And letting the game come to you in these circumstances, I think, would help his cause.
Still 4 minutes left in the third. Melbourne desperately trying to stay in it. The deficit is 19 points. They need to score. They need a run. And they start one here through Mello Trimble. Hard off the rim, and it's salvaged by Newley. Now Sean Bruce. Deshaun Taylor couldn't get the ball, and Melbourne cut a break as Trimble goes towards kick it and finishes.
That's much better energy from Melbourne United. It started with Trimble getting the hands on the interception, and then everyone out and run, and it's about putting these stops together slowly. You're not going to get this deficit back in one possession, but there's still 3.5 minutes to go. Slowly chip away here, go into three-quarter time and see what can happen.
Sydney's Casper Ware and Mello Trimble, each with 24 points. There are the City jerseys. You can grab one at nblstore.com.au. Sydney wearing their City jersey this afternoon, as will Perth in the game to follow against Adelaide. Yes, there's a big comeback. Melbourne risk falling to fourth. Behind South East Melbourne if they're beaten in this, and other results go in favour of South East Melbourne.
Sydney doing a great job of defending their home court. The crowds have been fantastic. They're still the only undefeated team at home. And given the evenness of the competition, it really just does show how tough they are. And oh my goodness.
Deshaun Taylor up to 12 points for the game. An NBL high for Deshaun, who'd struck his shooting problems in recent weeks. Brad Newley, the finger roll finish. Taylor, over his last 3 games, none of 12 from the field. Here he is, 12 points, dropping both field goals. Most points coming at the free throw line, and Trimble fighting hard to keep Melbourne in it.
And that last one again, that Brad Newley layup come at the expense of yet another turnover by Casey Prather.
Here we go, Black, let's go. Sub coming in, Black.
I've got to wonder how high Sydney is going to go in this game, remembering that 117 is the benchmark set by Adelaide last week. With 3 minutes left in the third, 89 points in the bank already.
And here's the frightening thing. If you look at the teams before this weekend, you say, well, Melbourne United are the team best placed to compete with the Sydney Kings. But you look at it and then you think, well, hang on a second. You've still got Kevin Liss to come back, one of the elite defenders in the competition. You've still got Craig Moller, and then you throw in Xavier Cooks. So if it wasn't already a daunting prospect, it's only going to get harder as the season rolls on.
Golding with a step back 3.
That's a good sign that he's being aggressive. You know, he went off with that unsportsmanlike foul, but come back in, hunt your shot a little bit and try and help Mello Trimble and slowly chip away. Starts on defense, but good possession from him.
Sean Tate looking for options. He goes to work on Barlow, nursing 4 fouls, and Tate comes away with points.
How is the bench, the players all screaming, just go at Barlow. Get it to Tate and let him go to work.
So Melbourne now have allowed every opponent this season, all 13 of them, to get to 90 points. Joe Luala draws the foul, the bucket counts. Kick it to the man to offend. Offensive foul it is.
And we saw this early on in the season. I thought Melbourne's defence was a work in progress and just felt like they found the formula. But here's Daniel Kickett. It's with the hook, I guess, is the thing they've called on that one, because it didn't look like he had really great defensive position.
Sean Bruce spots Newley. Almost got a bit of luck from the backboard, but 91-73. It's Sydney in control. Mello, Trimble, this time it's a foul on Newley.
But Halls, if you look at the difference, and you say the difference between these two teams, which arguably the two best teams in the competition, the main difference for all the statistical data you see is the points against. Melbourne giving up 95, whereas Sydney, a league best 85. And you can see why, based on the game today, where Sydney's defence has been really impressive. In contrast, Melbourne looked a little shaky, but some of their defensive problems, I think, has been caused by their offense.
Well, you say that, but Melbourne are still well and truly on track to beat their average of Sydney's points against of 85. So there's a lot that's gone against both teams in both ways. But right now, as 91 points in a minute 50 to go in the third is way too many. But there's still plenty to go in this ball game, believe it or not.
Casper Ware back on the floor, spotting Didi Lazada, who goes back to Casper, and Ware goes to 27. 9 of 12 shooting. He had a little breather and has come back ready to keep on scoring. Lual Achul had a really good long look and made the most of it.
That's a great feed by Mello Trimble when he said he got some contact and he wasn't happy. And it's about keeping your heads now, just putting your head down and just playing through. As you said, Gazy, we're 3 quarters into this game now. Not much is going to change. So really just put your head down, play the game you know how, and play with a lot of energy and effort.
And they get to 100 by 3/4 time, Sydney. Lazada believes so. 98-78. Let me correct that, 96-78.
Just made it look so easy.
Sam McDaniel, beautiful spin move, but the finish let him down. Lazada brings Sydney up the floor. Casper Ware calls Andrew Bogan into position, and Casper goes from length.
That's a big check if I've ever seen one. Good 3 metres behind 3.9.
He was way outside. In the end, the shot was too heavy. 9 seconds of the third. Shot clock just inside the game clock. Barlow moves the ball on to McDaniel. Baseline pull up. Gets the shot away but can't finish. And that is the end of the third. Sydney in control. Kings 96, United 78. How high will Sydney go? They're chasing 117 for the highest tally this season. Let's see if they can get it. That is the scene at Kudos Bank Arena. Another big crowd, and with good reason, because the Kings are firing, unbeaten at home, 5-0, and on track to go to 6-0. 96 points is the highest 3/4 time score this season. Hungry Jacks NBL20, as I mentioned, 117 is the highest total this season, so it is in jeopardy.
Well, it'd be a really poor quarter for Sydney if they don't get it, and that would be more of a surprise than if they do get it. And I guess, though, if they keep this margin up, that they might clear the benches, and that can certainly change things. This could be Barlow's 5th.
Picked up his 4th in the third term, and it is. So David Barlow out of the game, as he was on Friday night in Cairns. So round 9, one to forget for the veteran of the league, David Barlow.
He's done it in less than 10 minutes, he's found out. So have we look? He's sliding his feet. Perhaps he might have moved forward ever so slightly.
But that's been a lot of how all 5 of his have been today. It's all been very similar. Tate's just put his head down, so...
Well, we've had 42 fouls called so far in the game, which is a lot.
Well, he's going to ask the question. I'm sure Barlow's going to be asked the question of what more he can do in that situation.
Well, one of the great things for the Sydney Kings is, well, if they're going to put you to the line, they're 32 and 35. Now, 35's a lot, but to make 32 of them is outstanding at 91.4%.
Sean Long dunks 2 and will find Brad Rosen.
Yeah, look for Melbourne. I was listening to that half three-quarter time, and I can tell you Dean Vickerman has not given up. They're going to look to go into a trap here when they score and then go back and be able to either zone or man. But the number one thing is get stops and run. But the question is, can they get stops?
Well, when you're sitting around in a zone defence that you would see at the Australia Day Warrnambool Seaside Carnival Tournament in B grade, there is no chance you're going to come back into it. And straight away, I think Dean Vickerman saw what we saw, and he calls an immediate timeout to say, boys, we want to put pressure on the ball, but...
2-2-1, every score. All right, we just talked about in the timeout, whether you guys didn't listen or what.
We'll leave Dean Vickerman there. He is fired up. Yesterday, they were excited in New Zealand. The Breakers with a much-needed victory, despite the best efforts, again, of LaMelo Ball, who was 1 assist shy of a triple-double. But really, this should be about the Breakers, because didn't they need a victory?
Well, they certainly did. A lot been said and written about some of the problems they've had both on and off the floor, but they came back and an impressive game. And they got contributors from everyone. RJ Hampton was solid in his performance, and you reckon that his eyes would have lit up knowing that he's on that same level of LaMelo Ball, so he would have penciled this one in. But the Illawarra Hawks weren't terrible in this one, but that man there was just on fire. Henry was superb, and hopefully this is an opportunity for the New Zealand Breakers to turn things around. They had over 8,000 to their game, so they're getting a lot of people coming out to see him play. We've just got to turn it into a few wins.
Well, Kelly Webster picked up the injury last weekend, but Sek Henry doing really well in his absence.
Yeah, he was great, and he had a great steal and dunk, and he was just kind of everywhere.
Offensive foul on Andrew Bogut's. Before we get too far away from that game, LaMelo Ball with a triple-double against Cairns, against New Zealand, 25 points on 10 of 28, mind you. 12 rebounds, 9 assists after the review.
So they fall back into a zone, and you're still got to have your man-to-man responsibilities.
Good work by Bogut to make sure Sydney keep possession. Multiple fakes from Sean Tate, and he gets it done.
Well, that a disappointment, because Sean Long, he gave him every opportunity, Tate, a couple of head fakes, and he didn't really go after that shot in the aggressive nature he needed to. It's very hard, but you've got to forget about the score and just try and work your way through this. Melbourne United, that is.
Trimble splashes 3 more. He goes to 32 points for the game, 10 of 19 shooting.
That's much better from Chris Golding. Turn the corner, look to be aggressive and great pass. And as you said, Melo Trimble's had a terrific game. And
so Melo Trimble equal with his season high, 32. Here's Sean Tate. Let's talk more about Sean, because 25 points, 8 of 10 shooting. He's been sneaking along in the trail of Casper Ware.
Well, Dean Vickerman, he's had a look at some zone defence in these first 3 possessions. I think he would have seen enough and to say you need to just go out there and man up, because their zone has looked very porous.
Sean Long called for the foul, and boy, Sean, just the 1 rebound so far tonight.
my goodness.
I like that better by Long, just aggressively going after it, trying to get and contest for that board.
So he fouls out. Let's go through the stat line. 13 points of 6 of 8 shooting, but 1 rebound.
Well, yeah, you're talking about that, and you just said you liked his effort. What more could he do there? He's just being a big boy, trying to crash that glass hard, and I think he's hard done by. He did well to just walk off there and not get too upset.
Off kick it, so it will go the way of Melbourne. But the game is going the way of the home team. 104-83, with some studs still to come back into the team. Their championship odds shorten with each outing, it seems.
Both these teams missing players, but I think, as you've mentioned, Halls, Shea Early recently has given him that little extra starch on the defensive end, hounding, putting pressure on the ball, and also the big Chief Pledger, the way in which he can protect the rim. So they are missing a couple of important pieces, Melbourne United, but take nothing away from the Sydney Kings, because I'm not sure if even those two were there, based on the form that we're seeing here, would have made that much of a difference.
Big cities, big rivalries this Sunday. Next up, we get to see Perth hosting Adelaide. Give me your 10-second thoughts on this game, gentlemen.
Well, it's going to be a huge one, and I'll tell you what, Bryce Cotton's one guy who loves to come back from a rough week, which he had last weekend, so I'm looking forward to him firing. But this man right here, Anthony Drimmick, Homicide's been talking about it all week. He is stepping up, and he's going to go over there in Perth and be ready to fire, I'd say.
He has had an outstanding season, no doubt about that, and not sure he was bad enough last year that you could put him in the most improved, but he has improved from last year with coming off a decent season last year. And this next one, this is going to be a beauty. These two teams aren't all that friendly with each other, and there's going to be plenty of emotion and a lot on the line for both these teams.
Anthony Drimmick going from 9 points per game to 12.5 this season, Andrew. So there are the numbers that you're talking about.
Solid improvement. And I think also Perth Wildcats, they would be aware of this score and seeing opportunity to move up. So it'll be a great contest. Always is. Perth, Red Army getting behind their team. Fun place to play.
Still 7 minutes to go here. Kicking. Called by Deshaun Taylor, who goes outside for Luzada. 3 more for Didi. We'll have to pin him down and ask him, what do you want us to call you? Gigi, as it is in Brazil, or Didi, as he accepts here in Australia?
By all reports, he's happy to be called Didi. Keeps knocking down those threes. We're not going to be calling his name for much longer, because he's going to be playing with the bigs.
Number 35 in this year's NBA draft by Atlanta, traded to New Orleans, and here he is in Australia, learning English and, more importantly, learning basketball with the Kings against grown men in, as Corey says, anything but a cupcake league. Mello Trimble, a nice pass for Loire Lachille. He goes on to Smith Milner, and Melbourne have needed much more of that.
I think it was just good patience there, and no one really forced anything, and everybody moving off the ball, but everybody turning the corner looking to be aggressive, and that was a good little period right there for Melbourne United.
Newly come back in for Lozada. All smiles on the Sydney King bench, as you'd expect. Trimble subs out of the game. Not sure whether that means they put the cue in the rack, because Trimble has been fantastic. 10 of 19 from the field, 32 points, 4 assists, a couple of rebounds, and only the 2 turnovers.
Didi Lozada's afternoon/evening is over. He fouls out, with Barlow and Long already doing so for Melbourne. So that's Didi's first foul out in his NBL career. This is his first season in Australia. Plenty of fouls called, and as a result, plenty of players paying the price for it. Loire Lachille back for Golding. We look for McDaniel, and they turn it over. It's frustration upon frustration for the visitors. Melbourne about to go 2-4 on the road, and 7-6 for the season. A losing double confronting them in round 8. Next up, next weekend, they're at home against Adelaide. So that game just takes on a little more importance after consecutive defeats for United.
I know he's on restricted minutes, but given that this one's in the bag with only 5 to go, I reckon it'd be a good time to reinsert Casey Prather. He's got the 4 points, 2 of 5 from the field, but just to see in these dying minutes to get some confidence back into him, get him feel for the game back. That's not always easy to do in these types of moments when the game is over.
Last week when Joey Wright was headed towards a big win against New Zealand, he used his development players. Well, Lachlan Hutchison, Hunter Madden, Banjo Talbot are there. If Will Weaver elects to use them in the dying minutes here, here's McDaniel. And it bounces home. Bruce for Sydney. This big crowd of nearly 10,000 wanting a boisterous finish to their afternoon. Now their highlights to come for the Kings. Bruce gets the ball back. Taylor with his NBL high 12 points already. Walker for Bruce to get a good look. And Melbourne come away with it.
Dominated the boards. The Sydney Kings 27 to 20.
Possession stays with Melbourne.
Melbourne is shooting it close enough to 50. This is 49.2. Jack Purchase checks in for his very, very first NBL action. Melbourne Tigers junior, son of one of the greats, Nigel Purchase, 250-game NBL player with the Melbourne Tigers and Brisbane Bullets. And his son, who's spent the last 3 years playing at the University of Hawaii. Jack Purchase.
NBL debut, Andrew. So
yes,
Dean Vickerman using the chance, this lopsided scoreline against, to get some court time for Jack, the Melbourne 24-year-old.
Elite passer, can shoot it.
Dad Nigel, 250 games between 84 and 92. A proud family, no doubt, with Jack on the floor.
No, and Nigel Purchase, very, very famous for some extraordinary things he's had on a basketball court. Brisbane, he threw one from the baseline, scored the longest three-pointer in NBL history. Well, you can't beat it because he was right on the baseline, and actually shot a three-pointer for the opposition. Playing at the Glass House, went to save a ball, threw it over his head as McCarron goes to the basket, deflected the ball, threw it over his head, and it went into the rim of the Canberra Cannons. Now, in today's game, that's illegal. It doesn't count. But back then, it counted in 3 points to the Canberra Cannons, if you don't mind.
A couple of great stories. Here's Smith-Milner. And Sydney's ball. So this is Sydney's highest score this season. It's their highest score in a non-overtime game in that history of 40-minute NBL. 107.93 in front of nearly 10,000 fans, Pete.
And there's still 3 minutes to go. They've clawed it back slowly to 14 points. Crazier things have happened.
True.
But now you see the development players are in. Sam Short back in. And I'm sure the Sydney Kings might do the same unless he's a little nervous, but we'll have a listen to him.
Any pops are late, all right? You're the forward, we're choking with you. Anybody in the screen, if it's an obvious under, cool. Otherwise, go ahead and get over that thing. We'll use our lace if we need to on the fives. We're choking appropriately. McCarron, choke it down to him. He's coming as a driver, all right? If he pulls up on one, that's on me. Make sure we get support spots organized. They're going to press right here, all right? Laxi, you're the...
Like that. Now you're playing center field. All right, you're making a read about it coming out, but let's get a great trap on this one. Hey, we're gonna. All right, we're gonna blitz on balls. Make your reads off it. Go for steals. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Well, like you say, Manny, Dean Beckerman still right into this game, as he should, with only a 14-point margin. And although Melbourne United have gone deep into their bench with a couple of DPs on the floor in that timeout, talking about what they're going to do with any on ball. They want to trap it at blitz, and when he used the term blitz, there's going to be a double team with the screeners defender and the on-ball. They're going to stay on it. And after a basket, yeah, you see a double team, full court, extended press, just trying to create some turnovers and also create quick shots. Doesn't want Sydney to eat up too much of the clock on each possession.
He's a competitor, Dean Vickerman, and in his 6th season as an NBL head coach, 4 times he's been to the playoffs with 2 championships in the bank already, at New Zealand in 2015, Melbourne 2018. And he's riding his side home, no matter what the score. McDaniel leaves the shot short, and Jay-Sean Tate pulls it down. 2.5 left, 14 the difference. Jay-Sean Taylor.
Sydney now, they're only going to be looking for the shot in the last 8 to 6 seconds to start to look for the shot.
Jay-Sean to Jay-Sean, out for Brad. Much easier to say, and Newley gets it done.
And he's quietly had a very efficient game, Brad Newley. Picked his spots wisely.
Shot from Sam Short off the mark. Sydney happy to eat the clock. McDaniel on Jay-Sean Taylor. Taylor to Newley. 3 seconds left on the shot clock, and Walker gets it back. Can't finish. Gets his own rebound and goes to Jay-Sean Tate. Taylor, 5 seconds on the shot clock. And Walker can't finish. They eat plenty of time, though. And now Torrey Smith-Milner sits it up for Short. Back to Smith-Milner. And he draws the foul and is off to the line. So the OMG moment, we have had plenty of them in this game. Here it is, and Pete Hooley, Andrew Gaze, give me your verdict. Did we pick the right one?
Well, that angle probably doesn't do it justice. This will be a little better. It just comes flying in.
That is a nice putback by Tate, getting to the rim. For the Sydney Kings, there's a lot of OMG moments that you could have selected, so plenty on offer.
Great dunk from Bogut, winding back the ears. Big bombs from outside. Casper Ware, late in the first half.
Lachlan Hutchison checking in, another DP for the Sydney Kings that I saw. Gets some time.
Just to make defeat even harder for Melbourne, they will go to 4th, and Southeast Melbourne, the rivals, go up to 3rd. Shot Taylor. And is it a bucket with his touch of travel called? No, the foul is called.
The second personal foul.
Lonnie Hutchinson brought him on last season from the Sutherland Sharks.
Shooting for his first NBL points, Andrew,
yes.
right here.
Really good, hard-working kid. 16 points in the Waratah League. I believe next year the Waratah League is going to be expanded into the NBL1 competition, or they're going to carry the NBL1 branding, so hopefully there's some good signs for the Waratah League.
Well done, Lachlan Hutchison, now an NBL point scorer. Successful with his second shot at the line. Made his debut round 2 against Adelaide. Jump time in 4 games. Here he is scoring in his 5th NBL game.
And there's Sam Short for his first NBL points as well, so well-deserved. Come with a nice 3-ball there.
Oh, great to see the DPs out there and doing it.
It's tough because when you're a guard and they're in a full court trap with a double team, you're trying to gain some confidence from the coach, and you have a turnover like that. But all the coaches understand that in these circumstances, it's not as easy as it might look in these, what they call jump minutes. But they're not jump minutes for guys like Lockie Hutchinson and Jack Purchase.
Hunter
Madden. These little moments can really help in gaining some confidence from the coaches.
Hunter Madden made his debut in front of the 17,500 against Illawarra. Here he's out there shortly afterwards. Double team on Deshaun Taylor. Almost gets the job done. Here's Hunter Madden. Is he going to shoot the ball and try and score? Shoot it, Hunter. Seconds ticking away. Look for the pass to assist. And couldn't get it done.
Nice little crossover move by the young fella.
Yeah, that's a good way to get your second bucket of the NBL career. Nice little Euro, nice confident Euro there.
The DPs in Adelaide didn't look out of place last week, and the same can be said here as well. Deshaun Taylor, last shot of the game, and it's another big win for the Sydney Kings. They roll on, unbeaten at home, 6-0. Now 11-1 for the season. They've beaten every team in the competition now, avenging the only loss they had against Melbourne earlier on. The Kings by 10 in what was a blitz when it came to scoring, especially early.
It was, and they just set the tone early from the jump and were really, really aggressive. Just put their head down and attack the rim. But a lot of standout performance for the Kings, and Mello Trimble, that man right there, really stood up and was solid for United.
Xavier Cook's part of the lineup there, about to enter Sydney's roster in weeks to come. But Sean Long, quiet tonight. He ran into foul trouble. And there is much to like about Sydney, especially given the cattle they are about to call on. Pete Hooley, thanks for your company this afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed that performance by Sydney as much as we have. Corey Homicide Williams is standing by, who'll join Andrew Gaze and myself. Next up, we're off to RAC Arena. It's Perth against Adelaide as your Hungry Jacks hoops just keep on coming.